Hey guys, sorry for those of you saying that there wasn't any audio. Once again, my name is Abby, this is Matilda, and then this is my fellow keeper, Kara. We are part of our ambassador team here at the San Antonio Zoo. Like I said, this is Matilda. She is our tawny frogmouth. So this is a bird of prey species that's native to Australia and Tasmania. So despite looking like a tree branch or a tree stump, so she's doing a behavior called stumping, which really works for her favor out in the wild. She's giving her best impression of a tree branch or a tree stump. And as I mentioned, she is a bird of prey species, but she's going to be very unlike the bird of prey species that we're used to. She's going to be a sit and wait predator. So she's going to wait for things to come close to her that she can snap up really, really fast. She's got these cool little mohawk of feathers here over the top of her head. Those are called phyloplumes. And what that means is that they act more as sensory feathers or sensory hairs, so that way when anything flies close or crawls close to her mouth, that she can snap it up really, really fast. Now if you notice, her mouth actually starts pretty far down, a little bit closer to these sides of her head, and is bright yellow on the inside, which is super cool. These guys are going to be more closely related to nighthawks and nightjars than they are to other birds of prey that we're really used to here in the United States, although they are mistaken for owls. They are not owls, but though similar to that species, they do have those fringe or frayed ends to their feathers that do allow for silent flight. Also, very unlike owls or other birds of prey species that we're used to, they don't have incredibly strong feet. So Matilda is really just going to hang out and wait for things to come close to her that she's going to be able to eat and snap up really, really fast with that large beak. Versus other birds of prey that we're used to that have those zygodactyl feet, those two toes in the front and those two toes in the back that have a really strong grip that help them tear their prey apart. Matilda also has some really big, giant yellow eyes, although she is still doing her best impression of a tree branch, so we can't see those quite as clearly right now. But these guys are crepuscular or nocturnal, so that means that they're going to be more active usually in the very early hours of the morning or the evening, or even at night, and those big eyes are going to allow her to be able to see better during those times.
Do we know how old Matilda is?
We do. Matilda is about 4 years old, and she was actually born here at the San Antonio Zoo. So these guys do have a lifespan about 5 to 10 years in a wild habitat, and that of course is usually going to be a little bit longer than that here under our care, just because she doesn't have to worry about where her food or water comes from every day. And because we provide that care and that round-the-clock veterinary care as well, these guys do tend to live a little bit longer under our care. All right, so we're gonna move on to our next animal ambassador. Now this is Maisie, and she is our corn snake. This is also my fellow keeper, Angela, for those of you at home. So Maisie is a corn snake, and that name can come from one of two origins. So usually these guys are found in large granaries or other areas where lots of grain is stored, which also happens to attract things like mice, which are going to be one of her favorite things to eat. These guys are also known for their really pretty colorations, their really pretty color patterns. In fact, most corn snakes do have a cracked corn pattern on their underbelly, but they do come in a whole lot of different colors, including oranges, reds, and mottled browns. In fact, these guys are usually often mistaken for copperheads. These are a non-venomous species, as we do handle them pretty much every day. But they are going to prey upon usually the same things. They're going to be attracted to areas with lots of mice and other rodents. However, they are going to be constrictors. So usually when they grab onto their prey, they're going to hold tight until they are able to swallow it versus using a venom. Now, unlike us, a snake can unhinge their lower and their upper jaw, and that way they're able to swallow things that are usually quite a lot bigger than their heads, usually about 4 times larger than the way we are able to open our jaws. If we were able to open our jaws like a snake, we would be able to swallow a watermelon whole. So Maisie is also about 4 years old. She's been at the San Antonio Zoo since about 2016 and has been a part of our ambassador team for that long as well. So she's showing off that really cool forked tongue. So that forked tongue also serves a really cool purpose. This helps snakes sense direction, so they're able to sense direction with those forks, whether or not that they want to go to the left or the right, or where they might best find some prey or something to eat.
Tori would like to know if all corn snakes look the same.
So there's actually a pretty wide variety and patterns of a lot of corn snakes. So Maisie is the younger of the two corn snakes that we do have here on our ambassador team, and she's got this really pretty orange, dark orange pattern to her. Jersey is our other corn snake that we have here on our team, and he looks very different from her. He's got a lot more reds and darker oranges, as well as that really distinctive cracked corn pattern on his underbelly, with usually big spots of black and adjacent to white spots.
She's so shiny. Is she slimy?
She is not. So snake scales are made of the same protein that makes up our fingernails, which is something called keratin. And it also makes up our hair cells as well. So for those of you at home that you can't touch Maisie right now, the closest thing that you can tell by her texture is going to be running your finger across the backs of your fingernails. And that's what she's gonna feel like. Maisie actually recently went through a shed, so it's probably the reason why she is so shiny. So snakes do grow continuously throughout their lives, and in order to do so, they tend to shed their skin about once a month. So she's gonna go through a full shed. She's gonna shed all the way from her nose and her eye caps, all the way to the end of her tail, and then come out with those bright, shiny, fresh new scales.
Mary would like to know if it can swallow 2 animals at once.
You know, I don't know that she would. I can't say that she wouldn't try. But we usually just do one prey item at a time. Like I said, they can open their jaws pretty wide. In fact, they can dislocate their upper and lower jaw. But they would have to go through the energy process of catching and then squeezing 2 prey items, which probably they're not going to try to waste their time on. Alrighty, so we are going to move on to our next animal ambassador, who's really fun. Alrighty, so this is Elmer, and he is our North American porcupine. So these guys are indigenous to the North United States. They can be found throughout the United States. These guys can even be found here in Texas. And they are the second largest rodent species in the United States. The first being a beaver. So Elmer is covered in about 30,000 quills, which are a modified hair, so kind of similar to ours, just with a very specific purpose. So those quills are going to be his main defense system. As you can see, they're really concentrated there towards the end or the base of his tail. And he's got those longer, kind of puffier, softer looking hairs up top. So those longer hairs are going to be a little bit more sensory. They're going to kind of give him a better idea of what his environment looks like. Since he doesn't have great eyesight, but he does have a better sense of smell. And then those shorter quills there towards the end of his tail, like I said, are going to be his main system of defense. Now, a lot of people think that these guys can shoot their quills. It's actually a pretty big myth. But the quills do lie really close to the surface of their skin. So that way when a would-be predator might come up on these guys and brush against those quills, they're gonna come out really, really easily, and then they're gonna stick. These guys have little barbs there at the end of their quills, which do some pretty good damage to anything that might consider them a tasty snack. So like I said earlier, these guys are rodents. They do have large teeth that grow continuously throughout their lives. In the wild, these guys have been known to chew on things like bone shards to help grind those teeth down. Here at the San Antonio Zoo, we provide things like buffalo guard that they can chew on to help keep those teeth nice and short. These guys are also known to climb, so he does have nails there at the end of those cute little paws that do help him climb up trees. And the really funny thing about these guys is they tend to grow for some of the newer growths at the very end of trees. And a lot of people know them to fall out of trees very easily just because they tend to go on the part of the tree that doesn't support their weight. But they're pretty solidly built, so we're not too worried. Now Elmer is about 5 years old now. And he's been a part of our ambassador team at the San Antonio Zoo for a little over a year.
Thank you, Sally, for the shout out from behind the camera. A few people would like to know how big they get.
So Elmer is probably larger than most of the North American porcupines that you would find here in Texas. He is about 11 kilograms now. So they're going to be a range from probably that's going to be on the higher range to maybe about 7 to 8 kilograms.
Allison would like to know how long the quills get.
How long the quills get. So these larger, longer ones up here are still quills, but they're not going to be quite as sharp as the ones that are towards the base of the skin. Like I said earlier, these are going to be more of the sensory quills. And that's probably about as long as they're going to get. So the shorter quills down here towards the base of the tail, there's some pretty long ones there, the lighter colored ones towards the base of the tail. And I would guess that they're probably about an inch and a half at their longest.
Michelle would like to know how intelligent they are, but basically if rodents are smart.
Rodents in general are usually incredibly smart. In fact, a lot of people do keep rodents such as rats in their homes that are very easily trainable and very easy to work with. Elmer's about the same. He's incredibly easy to work with. As you can see, he loves food a lot. His favorite things tend to be grapes, as well as a rodent block that we feed here at the San Antonio Zoo is one of his favorite treats. It's a big part of his diet. And we do work with him every day. We work on things like target, which means that we are asking the animal to move around their enclosure and usually touch their nose or their tongue to a target. That allows us to move them around their enclosure, as well as when we are out in an open space such as this, we're able to guide them in the direction that we want to go. Elmer is also trained on a voluntary kennel. Like I mentioned earlier, he has covered about 30,000 quills. We can't pick him up and physically put him in a kennel. So he has been trained and he has been working on doing a voluntary kennel, which means that we simply put a kennel in front of him, ask him to go into it, and then give him a reward, a treat that he really, really likes, such as those grapes or that rodent block that I mentioned earlier. And that usually tends to increase the frequency or make it a lot more fun for him to go in that kennel. So that way we are able to move him between his enclosure to other spaces around the zoo, and hopefully soon back out into the public so that you guys can see him.
Christina would like to know if they have any behaviors that they display before they would back up and quill something.
So usually, and I don't know if we can get him to do it right now, but these sensory quills will kind of stand up. So these will all come forward, and that'll make him look a lot bigger to any would-be predator. So that's the first warning sign that's like, hey, I'm really big, I wouldn't try that if I were you. And then afterwards is usually going to be any would-be predator that would come and maybe try to take a bite and get too close. And like I said, those quills come out so easily. So it's usually a big problem for dogs, especially here in Texas. I've talked to a lot of people that say that the dogs will come back with those quills on their noses, and that's probably from them just being a little too investigative, a little too curious, and getting those barbed quills stuck in there.
One question is, if they shed their quills, do they grow them back?
They do. So in fact, Elmer sheds his quills almost every day. So very similar to a dog or a cat in the way that they shed their hair, he also sheds quills every single day, and then he will grow new quills to replace them.
Is this something that we do very often with our ambassador animals?
It is. So we really like to get our ambassador animals out into open spaces. Like I said, they are animals that we do take out in the public, not only out here in the San Antonio Zoo so that guests might get the chance to touch them, but we also take them off-site, so that means out into the community to local events and local schools. So it's something that we really like to focus on and definitely like to practice. It's really important for him to be comfortable in this kind of setting and to be kind of out and about and help and to focus on usually the keeper or the trainer working with him. So we not only do this with Elmer, but we do this with most of our ambassador animal collections. So our Burmese pythons actually come out here pretty often, especially when it's so nice and sunny like this, so we get them the chance to come out and stretch a little bit, get some extra sunshine. And that ranges from things like the Burmese pythons, like I said, to our Tumandua Hogan, who is also trained to walk on a harness and a leash, so that way we can come out here and practice with him as well. Even down to things like our other smaller snake species, our emperor scorpions, and some of our bird species.
Victor asked, when you say ambassador, what do we mean by ambassador animals?
So ambassador animals are usually animals that are not going to be on exhibit. So it's really cool you guys are getting kind of a behind the scenes look at some of the animals that you're not usually going to be able to see. So ambassador animals, as I mentioned earlier, are animals that we work with very closely in order to bring them out into the public, especially here at the San Antonio Zoo, so that way you guys get the chance to meet them up close and personal and make a better connection and learn more about them, as well as be able to take them off-site, so out of the zoo and out into our community, especially to local schools and other community events. It's really important here at the San Antonio Zoo that we engage in our mission statement, which is learn, engage, act, and protect. That way we're helping you guys make that better, closer connection with some of these animals. Hopefully learn a little bit more about them and want to act in helping us conserve and educate the public more about them. Alrighty guys, well thanks again for tuning in, friends. Again, my name is Abby, this is Kara and Elmer. So we'd like to thank you guys once again for joining us on Facebook Live today. We'd also like to remind you to like or share our posts on social media. And for those of you who are able, we'd really appreciate any donations, so that way we can continue our awesome care of some of these really incredible animal species. Thank you guys for tuning in. Y'all stay safe out there. We miss you. We hope to see you again soon.